Overflow, living from a place of overflow. Elle, we've been talking about this for a few weeks now, and we've also been talking about all the things that trip us up, the distractions,
Hmm.
the obligations, all the other things. And just before we started recording today, you were sharing that
Mm.
sometimes, yes, often the distractions are out there and they're the external things,
Mm.
but often they're a bit more sinister. And I'd love you to share with our listeners what you were sharing with me just before we pressed record.
Well, I did. I signed up for, okay, go back to the start. Beginning of nearly every year for probably the last 3 or 4 years, I've signed up and done the Tony Robbins Time to Rise. It's a free 3 day, it's a few hour event each day for 3 days that he does at the beginning. And people from all around the world, there are several millions of people signed into this conversation. And really, we've said it before, there's nothing new under the sun. What Tony Robbins teaches, he teaches the same all of the time. However, repetition, we need refreshed,
Oh,
we forget things. And it's
absolutely.
the beginning of the year, right? I think it's such a great thing to um I like to read books as well, but often at the beginning of the year, getting school back and things, I'm not doing that. So hopping online and having stuff just sort of fed to you, it's a
Yeah.
good space to be. So I typically do this, and I know these questions. I know what again, nothing was new. What he shared, I'd heard before, but something jumped out at me, and I wanted to share it because it ties in so beautifully with what we've been talking about.
Love
So
it.
he
Yeah.
asks these three questions, and I'll tell you how and why it ties in after I've told you the questions. He says there are three decisions that we make every moment of every day. Okay.
Right.
Now, these questions are not necessarily like conscious questions that we're asking ourselves, but they're decisions and questions that underpin everything that we do. And he says it's, what am I going to focus on? What am I focusing on?
Hmm.
What does this mean? So, what feeling does it create? What does it mean
Hmm.
for me? And what am I going to do? What am I going to do with that information? So, from the minute that I jumped onto this Zoom conversation with you, Kath, and we started recording, what did I look at you, I think, wow, your hair looks really nice today. And you're like, yeah, I washed it. But, and I could think, oh, wow, I should have washed and done my hair today.
Yeah.
I create meaning from what I focus on. So, and we do that. And when we think about it, it actually happens every moment of every day. So, how does that then impact living in an overflow? I'll tell you how, because it's what's going on in my head
Yeah.
every moment of every day. So,
Yeah.
it's not
And it's
necessarily,
yeah. And
okay.
it's so I love what you shared about hearing things again and repetition. And it's so true. And I think, even what so what we're focusing on in the moment every single day,
Mm.
absolutely. And every single second of every day we're focusing somewhere. And so sometimes it's the unconscious, we're not even aware. Like, you said the first thing you thought is, oh, I should have washed my hair or whatever, like we
Mm.
jump to these
These
really, really
stories.
random thoughts and stories. But it's also, I love that you were intentional about choosing to focus on, you know, those 3 days of teaching and just receiving and hearing
Mm.
again.
Mm.
Because I think for me, what I hear that does is that helps to remind us all of where's my starting point? Where's my foundation? And it's interesting because just yesterday at church, our pastor was sharing it was a very similar topic, and he had these visuals on the screen, which are just so helpful. And the one visual was um, this beautiful tree on the banks next to this river, and
Yeah.
the scripture of being like a tree firmly planted and
Planted.
rooted next
Hmm.
to the river,
The source.
and how it will bear fruit and have leaves all the time. And then the next visual he put on was this hay bale, and the bits of chaff were being just blown all over the show off this hay bale. And I think, these feelings and these fleeting thoughts that come into our mind that suddenly have us feeling shaken, or suddenly feeling like not enough, or less than, or somebody else has done something better or brighter
Better.
or whatever. And then, and those sort of feelings are like the chaff blown by the wind.
Mm,
And it's such a helpful thing to be reminded, hang on a minute, I can choose to have roots somewhere.
mm.
And where are my roots? Where's my foundation? Where's my anchor? And I
Yeah, what
think
am
when
I?
we remember that, and it's also like you asked last week, do I have other language for living out of overflow? And I think it's all this kind of stuff.
Mm,
I think unless we have a clear picture of where our roots are and where we
yeah.
want to be firmly rooted and live our life from, it's like the starting point, the platform where we're living our life from. That's how we get to live in overflow. And you're
Mm,
so right. It is so easy to just forget and
mm,
to just remember and
hmm.
to get caught up with the thoughts, and the feelings.
The thing that I find fascinating is how quickly thoughts and feelings, if left unchecked, how quickly they flood our mind. You couldn't even say it as quick as the thoughts come, and there's a whole brand new story whirling around in my head. And it just
Yeah,
comes, it's an automatic response, right? It's an automatic response to some sort of stimulus, whether it's something spoken or something you see, whatever the information has that's presented itself, there's a response. But the idea that we actually can choose what we're going to focus on, but then not only what we're going to focus on, what meaning we're going to give it,
yeah,
to then what am I going to do? My goodness, it doesn't stop those automatic thoughts coming into our head because it is. That's why I'm using the word automatic. It's an automatic response, but
yeah,
we can slow it down for a moment. We can pause for a moment and choose what meaning we're going to give it and what we're going to do about it, which will help us then be in that state of overflow. And I love that your pastor shared the tree with the roots because I had the opportunity to speak yesterday and I was talking about an anchor. And we just think
yeah,
about, a ship or a boat out in sea and stormy seas, it can be anchored and it can stay. It can be, it'll still move, but it can be planted, it can be anchored to something. And when we know what we can be anchored to and we make a choice around that,
yeah,
we can capture our thoughts, give it the right meaning or whatever meaning we need it to have at that time, and make deliberate, intentional decisions to live in the life that we want to, the direction we want to go.
yeah. Now I'm listening to you and I'm just thinking about a incident that actually happened very recently with me, and I'm smiling on the inside because it speaks so into all of this, and just how our thoughts can just be so crazy sometimes. So I had the opportunity to sit through an interview process.
Mm,
Wasn't something I was looking for, but it's something that
it
came
happened.
across my path, and was invited into this interview. And I wasn't actually even quite sure exactly the nuts and bolts of what this was for,
Hmm.
but I thought this is interesting. It's a door that seems to be opening, and I'm gonna, yeah, just put
Suss it
myself
out.
out there and just,
Mhm.
see. But in the same breath, knowing because of the conversations we've been having, my mind has been more intentional on what does it mean to live from overflow? How do I choose that for my days? And so in my mind, I've got that sort of swirling on my head, but I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
I just, still go for this interview, see what this is all about. And as the person was explaining their history and what this all entailed and the story around it, I was sitting thinking, and there were a few sort of little, not major alarm bells going off, but a few sort of question marks, I suppose, going off in my mind, going, oh, that's interesting, and oh, but I got my focus was on the interview, and I got caught up again in performance, and like, I'm going to do this interview well, and I'm going to,
Hmm.
land this
Hmm.
this position, and walked away from the interview feeling quite torn, if I'm honest, because I kind of
Hmm.
thought, oh, there's certain things there that yes fit but then I think I've just had this awareness that, if I did this, it would be stepping into more of the performance and like, dang, no, I want to live from overflow this year. Anyway, the other person involved in the whole interview said
Mm.
she would be in touch with me the following day to let me know the outcome. And anyway, she called me the day after and let me know that I was not successful in this interview.
Hmm. Fair
And
enough.
man, oh man, the conflicting feelings and thoughts
Yeah.
that, in a mo like you said, that they happen in a millisecond and they're automatic. So
Mm.
automatically, all at once, I had the sense of, oh, quite relieved because I knew deep down that if I said yes to this, I would be straddling, that lane of performance and
Hmm.
pushing and striving. Um, and and yet the door automatically closed, which I'm so relieved about because it meant that, oh, I didn't need to do that. And, note to self,
Yeah.
I could, if I had got it, I could also say no. But
Hmm.
but at the same time, I was just feeling so like, oh my gosh, I failed and I've been rejected and the door's closed in
Rejected.
my face. And felt
Mm.
myself spiraling down pretty quickly into that space of, and what am I going to share with my husband? And this is like a bit embarrassing. And I, was rejected. And thankfully, my friend, through all our conversations and,
Mm.
the privilege of working in this coaching space, I had the insight to go, hang on, Kath,
Mm.
just stop there for a minute, like
Mm.
just catch that
Hmm.
thought. And where's my anchor?
Yeah.
And my anchor right now is actually, I want to choose intentionally to live from overflow.
Mm.
And if I'm honest, this position, if I said yes to, would have taken me away
Yeah.
from the overflow. And
Mm.
so now I can sit and have the conversation and go, what was I even thinking? Like
Yeah.
it's so clear in my mind now. But when you're in it and in the midst and all the
Yeah.
emotion, I think when you're in and there's emotion
Mm.
involved with all the feelings,
And
it's,
and the
oh,
story from old, the old
yeah,
story. I mean, I don't want to be rejected. I don't want someone to say no to me for something. And it stirs up an automatic response because it's often how we felt many, many times before over
yeah,
years,
yes,
even from when we were a kid. And it's that still will come up. But the fact that you recognize it and you can see it for what it is, it doesn't need to derail us.
yeah, yeah.
Mm. And
So
what you
remind us
did
of those
there,
three.
yeah, I was going to say you did exactly those three questions in that split moment when you paused
Yeah,
eventually after it all flooded your brain. You chose what to focus on. You knew you
yes,
wanted to focus at a living at an overflow, not performance, not being obligated to do things, etc.
yeah,
And so what am I going to focus on? And then the next question is, what does it mean? So
yeah,
how, and so then the beauty of that question, and it's important to not skip this question because if we can align our emotions, the feelings, our gut with how we want to live, it will then, because the next step is, what am I going to do about it?
yeah,
Any decision that we make in life comes from the thought and what we've made it mean to us.
yeah,
And so if we can become aware of those, we can use it powerfully.
yeah. And I love how you mentioned your gut because I think when I'm honest with myself, I do know the difference between how my gut feels when I feel there's an obligation and a performance and a striving versus how my gut might also feel a bit nervous and a bit, tense
Mm.
about something, but it feels different. There's an excitement and a stirring and oh my gosh, my heart really wants this, really longs for this.
Mm.
And yeah, so thanks for that reminder because I think that's
Mm.
helpful if we have insight to tune into um the insight of our gut actually, because
Mm.
head knowledge and gut knowledge can sometimes be
They
two
can be
different things.
conflicting. So yeah, I think it's why I wanted to share that today is because we have spoken
Yeah,
about obligations, we have spoken about performance. The thing is, our mind is with us every moment of every day. We can't escape ourselves no matter where we go. There we are. And we don't have to let our thoughts lead us astray. They don't have to steal us from living a life of overflow. And we actually can capture our thoughts and we can change it. We can choose to think on things that are even in the midst of really dark, difficult times.
Yeah.
We have a choice. We can sit in that and we can become focused on the difficulty. We can be focused on the things that we have no control over. We can focus on the things because, we have a right to, because things are really difficult and hard and we want to sit in that space. And maybe sometimes we do want to sit in that space for a time. But if we want to live in a place of overflow and be our authentic self, we have an opportunity to choose what we focus on, to give it a meaning, and even with our focus, turning it around to, gratitude and the things that we do have. And sometimes it's shifting our focus completely if it's not helpful for us. And so we have a lot more opportunity and a lot more options than often we realize, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, I'm so glad you actually revisited your
Tony
your start
Robbins.
of the year Tony Robbins forum that you joined, and great reminder. And
Mm,
yes, because I think it's also sometimes the simplest things are often the things we
mm,
forget. And I
mm.
think it's so easy to forget that every moment of every day we get to choose what we're focusing on, the meaning we're giving it, the story we're telling ourselves.
Yeah.
Is the story serving us? Is it
Yeah.
resourceful? Is it
Mm,
taking us towards the place we want to go towards or not?
mm,
And if it's
mm.
not, well, then we know we can do
What do
something
we want to
about it.
do?
So yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
really
So
good.
great reminders, Al.
Yeah,
Thank
I'll
you.
pop those questions in the show notes. So people don't have to hit rewind and listen to us say them again. They can find it in the show notes if you want to. I often have things like that up on my mirror just to help me
Yeah,
remember because we get caught up in life and busyness and it's sometimes we just need a bit of a reminder. So thank you for
yeah.
letting me
No, that
share it.
is helpful. Thanks,
Yeah.
Al. And yeah, I think I'm gonna put them up on my wall. I've got a wall next to my desk where I see things. It's like all the
Mm,
reminders. So I'm gonna add that to my wall too. Thanks.
love it. All right. Well, can't wait to talk next week and God bless and we'll see what next week brings.
See you then.